Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Bud Light. For some reason, Bud Lights attracted an obsessed fanatic named Charles Barkley, who's getting himself wrecked for his hateful rant by Jonathan Isaac. Why Charles Barkley is obsessed with Bud Light and loves Bud Light, we have absolutely no idea. It could be an investment, it could be a personal relationship, it could just be a complete misunderstanding, but no doubt about it, he loves Bud Light and he hates and wants to destroy anyone who would criticize his favorite beer. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you. I'm trying to get to 30,000 subscribers, so if you can subscribe, please do subscribe. Coming from Outkick, Charles Barkley says F you to people upset about Bud Light, but is he missing the point? He seems to be missing the point. Does he care about the point? Charles Barkley is someone who is not going to be boycotting Bud Light anytime soon. According to TMZ, the NBA legend and TV personality was in Lake Tahoe for the American Century Celebrity Golf Tournament. At some point, he got a little time away from playing golf. This gave him a chance to take the mic and lambaste people unhappy with Bud Light's descent into wokeness. Quote, "I want you all to drink this effing beer," Sir Charles said. "I want you all to drink this effing beer. I got 3 cases of Bud Light." Those 3 cases may mean that Barkley was holding on to the biggest supply of Bud Light in the entire world. Perhaps he was just trying to get rid of it, but he wasn't done. Quote, "And I want to say this, if you're gay, bless you. If you're transgender, bless you. And if you have a problem with that, F you." Yep, that's what he said. Charles Barkley, though, may be missing the point of why people were mad or disappointed with Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch. Somehow, Charles Barkley seemed to be conflating homophobes and transphobes with people who have been frustrated with Bud Light in recent months. It's lazy to say this whole mess was because of homophobia, transphobia, or any other kind of phobia. It started with anger that the brand partnered with Dylan Mulvaney, someone who has openly mocked biological women. We've all seen the video where Mulvaney dresses like Audrey Hepburn for basically no reason, holding up a can of Bud Light and acting like women have never heard of March Madness. Of course, women have heard of March Madness. Many of them watched Charles Barkley cover March Madness. The more intense rage came a few days later when an interview surfaced in which the brand's disgraced former marketing vice president slammed the people who had consumed Bud Light for years and talked about ridding it of its, quote, fratty image and out-of-touch branding. That's when the anger and frustration kicked into overdrive. Telling the consumer base to pound sand is what really made people mad. Mulvaney was the fuse while the vice president was making a fool of herself, and she became the crate of dynamite. Unfortunately for Bud Light, everyone said, quote, "Thank you, we will see ourselves out," and took their beer money elsewhere. And that's how Modelo Especial has now become the #1 beer instead of Bud Light. The company Anheuser-Busch, of course, has lost up to $27 billion, maybe even more of their market cap, depending on the daily stock price. Blaming a form of some kind of phobia for the Bud Light fiasco is just lazy. It's easy for woke progressives to say, quote, "These homophobes and transphobes don't want to drink Bud Light, blah, blah, blah." Of course, that's an inaccurate oversimplification. They just continue to do the very thing that started this whole fiasco in the first place. Ignore their actual customer base in favor of courting a completely different one through traditional woke tactics. In this case, that tactic was printing an actual test can for Dylan Mulvaney to become the new face of Bud Light. At least that's how it was perceived, because nothing else was explained. All we saw was Dylan Mulvaney in a bathtub showing a Bud Light can with Dylan Mulvaney's face on it, as if we wanted to associate with that. 99.9% of normal people don't want to be associated with that. Charles Barkley is smart enough to already know this. If you watch the video where Barkley made these comments, it looked like he was having a good time. We don't know what happened before the camera started rolling, but you can get the sense that he commandeered the microphone like someone's loud aunt at a wedding, something I've done before. Maybe he meant what he said, or maybe given the benefit of hindsight, he'd recalibrate this one a little. Still, it goes to show that the whole reason for this Bud Light fiasco is still not clicking with progressives. And then another video surfaced with Charles Barkley doubling down on Bud Light support, saying F you to anyone who disagrees with his outlook. It is a little bit on the aggressive side. Not everyone can see the world the same way that Charles Barkley does. Charles Barkley definitely doesn't have any regrets about supporting Bud Light. The retired NBA star turned popular personality made some waves when he declared F you to anyone who might have a problem with Bud Light, gay people, or transgender people. His comments seemed to come off the cuff and maybe weren't really well thought out. Was he saying F you to anyone who dislikes Bud Light? Doesn't Dylan Mulvaney? Dylan Mulvaney is actually pretty mad at Bud Light right now. Could it be something in the middle? What did he actually mean? Nobody knows. Charles Barkley doesn't like the Bud Light outrage. Now another video is out and it's clear Charles Barkley definitely doesn't give a damn about the backlash and outrage. Quote, there's a lot of people out here hating on Bud Light right now. I just want to say this, and I mean this from the bottom of my effing heart. Hey, if you're gay, I love you. If you're transvestite, I love you, which I don't even know if that's an appropriate term anymore. And let me say something. If you disagree, F you. Barkley said in a new video that appeared on TikTok. It's not clear where or when the video was shot, but the fact that Rob Riggle is in the background likely means it was also from when Barkley was in Lake Tahoe for the American Century Celebrity Golf Tournament. Barkley is not abandoning his message. To be clear, there isn't really any proof that there are a lot of people in America that hate gay or transgender people. What people don't like is biological men destroying women's sports, and people's issue with Bud Light and Dylan Mulvaney isn't about the transgender issue. There are a lot of transgender people in America who go about their lives without anyone noticing or caring. Bud Light chose to team up with Dylan Mulvaney, whose entire shtick is wildly offensive. Remember, the Mulvaney Bud Light promo painted women as being too stupid to understand sports or know what March Madness is. Do you know a single woman who doesn't know what college basketball is? The answer is likely no. Yet Dylan Mulvaney painted women as morons, and it's not a new thing. Mulvaney's entire shtick seems to be mocking women and behaving like a little girl. That's why people are upset. It's wildly offensive to women. Apparently, Charles Barkley doesn't get the point. People are free to drink whatever they want, and people are also free to choose something else if they want. Welcome to America. No need to paint all people who are against Bud Light as terrible. Perhaps Charles Barkley should be asking why it's okay for Dylan Mulvaney to mock half the people in America and cash checks while doing it. That's a much more interesting question, and we'd like to know. Jonathan Isaac spoke up and does not agree with Charles Barkley. Quote, what does this even mean? Jonathan Isaac calls out Charles Barkley for Bud Light rant while speaking pure truth. Jonathan Isaac, a forward for the Orlando Magic, shot out a glorious tweet Tuesday that called out Charles Barkley over his Bud Light rant that was intended to support the LGBT community. It just happened to be incredibly hateful. Barkley was at a celebrity golf tournament near Lake Tahoe when he decided to flame rednecks and a-holes who refused to drink un-American Bud Light after their fiasco with transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney. After Barkley was done with his rant, he then made the comment that he wasn't worried if he ended up getting canceled or not. Jonathan Isaac called him out over his stupid comments. Quote, what does this even mean? No one with human decency wants trans or gay people dead or without rights. God bless them all. But it's 1000% valid as a parent or adult to be concerned about the observable movement to influence children. Is that hateful? Quote, it's insane that in order to be the primary influence on your children, you have to go to war against influencers, the media, movies, multi-million and billion-dollar corporations, and good people like Charles Barkley who choose to fall in line with empty politically correct statements and narratives. Nothing Charles said would get him canceled, and it's wild that he thinks it would. This is a great response, and it's great that it's somebody else who's popular from basketball, because that's where Charles Barkley is coming from. It may be that Charles Barkley is not really a great intellectual, but he should be respecting other people. He caused a complete mess and a lot of upset, and it's great to kind of cap off the situation and have Jonathan Isaac stand up and say, hey, don't disrespect parents who actually care about what happens to their children. Yes, it's obviously observable that there are pressures on children to adapt to the social justice woke agenda. Parents are concerned, and thank God they're concerned, about what's going to be pushed on their children. It doesn't mean that just because parents are concerned that they want other people to not be able to live their lives. But you do have to leave their children alone. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Do you think Charles Barkley had any kind of a point, or do you better agree with what Jonathan Isaac had to say? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.